ISIS grew while the United States disengaged from the Middle East and ignored the threat. And where was the Secretary of State? Where was Secretary of State Clinton in all of this? Like the president himself, she had opposed the surge, then joined in claiming credit for its success, then stood by as that hard-won victory by American and Allied forces was thrown away.
Jeb Bush, during a speech at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in California, blaming the rise of ISIS on President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. With Miranda Khan, I'm J.D. Hayworth. Welcome back.
Mrs. Clinton has since responded to those allegations, telling supporters at the Iowa State Fair President George W. Bush made the agreement with the Maliki government that set the end of 2011 as the date American troops would withdraw from that region.
So the blame game in full force. Let's get a perspective on this from a national security expert, specifically Mark Moyar. Mark is the author of the book Strategic Failure: How President Obama's drone warfare, defense cuts, and military amateurism have imperiled America. Mark had said you can't judge a book by its cover, but you're making the case right there. You're saying it's the Obama administration to blame?
Yeah, that's right. And Jeb Bush does have this right. Hillary Clinton is just flat out wrong on this. If you look at the history of how Iraq went down, certainly mistakes were made. But when Obama came in 2009, he and Vice President Biden were claiming that Iraq was a big success. It was a budding democracy, and we could afford just to pull troops out. And it's now, I think, quite clear, and in the book I go into this in great detail, but it's very clear that the pullout of troops by Obama, which Clinton also presided over, was instrumental to the rise of ISIS. So I think it is a big campaign issue and one that Republicans will continue to exploit.
So, Mark, with that in mind, do we need to keep a constant presence in that area to ensure stability?
Well, I think we do need a presence there probably for at least the next several years, simply because there's no one else there who can really play the kind of honest broker role that's necessary, because of how bad it's gotten, thanks to Obama. The Sunnis and the Shiites in the region are implacably fighting one another, and it's going to take, I think, the United States to come in as an impartial observer. And we've seen that if we don't have boots on the ground, we don't have influence. So, unfortunately, yes, if we want to deal with the ISIS problem, we're going to have more American troops there than we have now.
Mark, in retrospect, you mentioned that mistakes were made. But I think back, because I had a vote in Congress, I voted to introduce our troops into Iraq. And then I looked on as it seemed we failed to embrace the notion of economy of force. In other words, applying our force overwhelmingly and brutally to achieve the desired ends. Did we go too slow? Was there a gradualism that set up the situation where the Obama administration was able to then just kind of back out?
Well, there was certainly one of the mistakes, I think, in how we went into Iraq is we did not send enough forces. There was actually, under Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, there was also this belief that we could get by with a smaller military. So we didn't send enough troops. We thought we'd take down Saddam and leave, and then we found ourselves without enough troops there. Of course, there were other mistakes made too, like I think disbanding the Iraqi army was a big one. So certainly mistakes were along the way. But by the time Obama's in, that's all been sorted out. And so Obama's really there. He had the opportunity to manage success, and instead he threw it away.
Mark, polls show that well over 50% actually of Americans disapprove of Obama's foreign policy. So why do you think the administration keeps blaming the former administration for the problems that are happening in the Middle East?
Well, I think it's, for one thing, it doesn't have many other options. And also it's been the modus operandi of this administration from day one. And you can understand maybe in the first or second year of the administration that they're going to try to blame things on the predecessor. But being, now in year 7, it's become a little absurd to try to claim that everything is the fault of the Bush administration. But that's what we continue to see.
Well, Mark, yeah, there's one thing that might work politically, but it looks like the paint has finally worn off that excuse, with the new polling showing over half the American people now think the Obama foreign policy is a failure. In the 45 seconds that remains, do you think essentially this Iran nuclear deal is what is making the difference now, changing the perception among Americans?
Well, I think that's part of it, but there's so many problems going on now with Russia on the march, China building these island bases, ISIS getting stronger. Iran is kind of, I think he sees that as one possible opportunity to redeem his failures and to have something he can latch onto, but I think that unfortunately is going to be a failure as well.
Well, we will keep our eye on it and also keep an eye out for Mark Moyar's book, Strategic Failure, How President Obama's Drone Warfare, Defense Cuts, and Military Amateurism Have Imperiled America. Our thanks to Mark. And we heard what Mark had to say. Now, what do you have to say? We would love to get your comments. Here is the place you need to send them. Send them to newsmaxtv.com/comments. There's more ahead as Newsmax Prime continues.